activists in Syria are claiming that more than 200 people have been massacred in a village in the Hama region. It's being alleged that pro-government forces bombarded the village with helicopter gunships and tanks, and that militiamen carried out execution-style killings. Now, some observers are warning that the latest developments in Syria are following a very similar pattern, especially when you consider what happened in Bosnia back in the early 1990s. The result was, of course, the massacre at Srebrenica. Lori Handrahan is a professor at America's University School of International Service. She joins us now. Professor, just give us a sense of, when we think back to what happened in Srebrenica, there were a slew of recommendations and promises that we would never see a loss of life on that scale again, that the world would not allow things to escalate to that point. Yet we see the situation in Syria. We see the proof, the evidence that there are atrocities, war crimes occurring. We see the bodies of children being returned to their families, just, you know, in such a state that really stuns most people. How are we back to this kind of a scenario yet again?
Jackie, thanks so much for having me on, and thanks for covering this issue. It's just incredibly important. I think you had me on earlier, and I dodged the question, actually. You asked me if President Obama was refusing to address the crisis in Syria because of the campaign. And if you remember, I kind of dodged your question. I'm not going to dodge it anymore. I mean, the Obama administration is breaking my heart, and I think it's breaking the heart of many, many Americans and certainly Syrians. It seems apparent that the Obama administration has made a decision to do nothing but campaign and stop governing completely. And I think that the inaction towards what's happening in Syria, the massive crimes against humanity, the targeting of children, which we've sort of never had these kinds of credible early reports by the Human Rights Committee, Council rather, and the UNHCR High Commission for Human Rights, talking about how children are being targeted here as a weapon of war, as a military strategy. And the fact that President Obama has decided, apparently, to do nothing is absolutely outrageous. And I think the Obama administration has blood on their hands, and they have children's blood on their hands.
Right, but I mean, in fairness, I mean, it's not as if they're not doing nothing. They continue to try and squeeze the administration. Right. There is huge pressure. We have seen at least 2 high-profile defections from within the Assad government. I mean, arguably, yes, it is not enough, because we see the massacres continuing still. Kofi Annan was expressing, it seemed, perhaps some optimism that he could still make a difference, that international observers could still make a difference, yet it seems to be regressing. So you're saying it lies squarely on the shoulders of Obama, but what about Russia? What about China? I mean, they are emerging as the new power brokers, are they not?
Well, because of the inaction of America, apparently. I mean, your foreign minister has come out and called the Human Rights Council a sick joke, and he's said that the Security Council is a disgrace. Look, the Security Council of the United Nations is made up of member states, right? The veto has always been a problem ever since the beginning. Actually, Russia was the very first veto on Syria in 1946. But the United States and other coalitions of the willing have always taken responsibility when the Security Council mechanism fails. That's only one mechanism that the international community has to uphold the rule of law, right, and defend human rights and defend children who are being slaughtered. There's many other mechanisms. There's a Uniting for Peace mechanism that the U.S. has used before. The U.S. has constantly gone around Security Council. We did in Kosovo. We did eventually in Bosnia. I mean, this reminds me back in 1992, Bill Clinton was campaigning for president, and Bush wasn't taking any action on Bosnia. And Bill Clinton said it's unacceptable.
Okay,
so the same sort of thing is happening now.
So what action is needed absolutely right now, especially given what we are describing as the worst massacre yet?
Yes. We need a no-fly zone immediately. Turkey asked for it. Apparently, the U.S. said no. When you had me on before with Professor Dorn, he said, look, Canada's never going to go forward without the U.S. I think NATO member states should go forward whether the U.S. goes with them or not. I know that politically that's probably, you know, a pipe dream. But listen, we can't allow this to continue. And if President Obama isn't going to take leadership, somebody needs to do something. I mean, Hillary Clinton has been incredibly brave. She's been a voice out there. But I think that the Washington Post had an op-ed saying that she's being the scapegoat for Obama on Syria, and I think that's true. I mean, and after her loyalty to the president, it's horrific. Jackie, you asked me about the lessons of Srebrenica. We said that we would never, ever make peace with murderous and unscrupulous regimes, and that's what we're trying to do right now. Again, okay? We said that we would never, ever deploy unarmed peacekeepers as a cover for diplomatic failure. That's what's happening again right now. We said we would never fail to recognize evil when it happened, and we would make the moral judgment to commit military force to halt that evil. One of the defectors has already said the only way the Assad regime is going to stop slaughtering children is military force. If we allow Russia to come in and set up an air defense system, which they're send these attack helicopters, then we've failed. Then we've allowed Russia to dominate the international community, and it will be an international community that will be led by crimes of humanity.
Okay, it's interesting.
I mean, it's absolutely
you mentioned
outrageous.
Russia, and a lot of people might say, well, is this not at the core a true diplomatic failure, that our strategy with Russia has failed, that we should have been able to get them at least to act here? Now Russia is in a position where it feels it has the upper hand. It is testing America to see what it's made of, right? Would that be your characterization?
Absolutely. Jackie, you took the words right out of my mouth. That's absolutely true. And I just want to say I got off the phone with my colleagues at the UN Refugee Agency this morning, the High Commissioner for Refugees, and they said that the situation has gone from bad to terrible overnight. A week ago, there were 500 refugees coming across the border. They're reporting now 1,000 refugees crossing the border, and the neighbors are doing their job. Lebanon, Jordan, Turkey, and Iraq have an open border policy. They're paying right now for the refugees. UNHCR is funded only at 26%. We need more contributions. We need your foreign minister, instead of throwing stones at the Human Rights Council, get out to the refugee camps. We need Mitt Romney to get out to the refugee camps. We need President Obama to get out to the camps, and let's hear the story from the people who are fleeing the crimes that are happening right now.
Right.
Where's the leadership?
Well, there is
Where
an
are the
election,
visuals
as you
of
know,
the
there is an
refugees?
election coming up in the United States. A lot of people are saying that has a huge scope over why we're not seeing the kind of action that you suggest should be taking place. So where do you see this going? Is this an opportunity, though, given how bad it is getting now, to make a decision now to act, whether it's outside of Russia and China being on board? Where do you see this going? Will it get worse, or is this now
Jackie,
an opportunity for change?
Excellent question. I think, this is my opinion, I think if Obama doesn't act now, he's lost the White House on Syria. It's only going to get worse. This is not going to go away. If he doesn't take leadership, he's going to lose the White House based on his inaction on Syria alone, I believe. It's an opportunity for Mitt Romney to stand up, get out to the camps and take real leadership, show Americans that he can be the leader, and it's up to countries like Canada. Your foreign minister should be out in the camps right now.
Okay, I want to ask you, though, are you encouraged by, has the tone changed now, what you're hearing from our political leaders, whether it's here in Canada or whether it's in the United States? Do you see this changing? What are you hearing in terms of the words they are using and, you know, how they're vocalizing what's occurring in Syria?
No, I don't see any change. I just see a lot of words. I see, again, one of the Srebrenica lessons which we promised we would learn, so that we would honor the 20,000 or so people who lost their lives there. This is a diplomatic cover. It's just more words. It's more words and more words and more words. So we're going to try another peace plan. So we're going to try more diplomacy. Russia has said there's a line in the sand. We're not going to do Chapter 7. There is going to be no military intervention. So now we need to go around the Security Council, as we have always done when crimes against humanity are at stake, and that's what we're seeing now.
So sadly, do you think a real change will not happen until after the election? Are we looking at that kind of a time frame, or could there be some sort of game changer?
I don't, you know, Jackie, your guess is as good as mine. I pray every day that Obama takes the leadership role that he promised all the Americans who voted for him. He talked about renewing America's leadership. He had an article in Foreign Affairs when he was a candidate, and there was a lot of beautiful rhetoric and a lot of beautiful prose coming out of President Obama when he was campaigning. Syria is his test. It's not about words anymore. We need action, and if he doesn't take that leadership, I think it'll cost him the White House, not to mention, more importantly, hundreds of thousands of lives of innocent civilians, women, children, who are being brutally terrorized right now in Syria as the world stands by, and it's very similar to Bosnia, unfortunately.
We will keep the conversation on it for sure. Lori Handrahan is a professor at American University School of International Service. Thank you. We do appreciate it.
Thank you, Jackie.